Texans initial interview requests are in, and it's a very, very good list. The process this year is much more pleasing than it was last year, and that shouldn't come as a shock to anyone. I've had some people say, "Well, why didn't they do this last year?" Come on, last year the coach that took this job inherited Deshaun Watson being disgruntled and wanting to be traded, Deshaun Watson's sexual allegations, $75 million in dead cap, no young talent on the roster, Jack Easterby lurking around. Let's not be silly. Like let's not simplify this and act like this year is like last year. But the process is much smoother. The process could have been smoother last year. It's no surprise that the list is more impressive. This, according to Ian Rappaport, Tom Pelissaro, and then you have all the other media types that reported after the fact, according to sources, whatever. But the initial interview requests, the initial interest, let's go through these. I'm actually about to go to Cal McNair and Nick Caserio's press conference. I'll hold the live stream in reaction after that, probably around 8-ish, maybe, depending on how long it goes and depending on when I can get settled in. So we'll have a live stream there. But let's go through the initial interview request. And the one thing I like about these requests is the guys are relatively young. The oldest guy on this list is 42 years old. You have a couple of 38-year-olds, 39-year-old, 36-year-old, I believe. They need younger coaches. They need coaches that are long-term. They need coaches that are more innovative. They need coaches that are more hungry. They need coaches that are connected to some of the young assistants around the league. So that's very encouraging to see young ones. And I think if you ask people to put together a top 5 list, I think a large chunk of that list would be here, starting with number 1, DeMeco Ryans. The Texans are interested in DeMeco Ryans. I think DeMeco Ryans is going to be interested in this gig. I understand people mentioned the lawsuit. It was about a piece of turf. It was about a playing surface. I don't think that matters. Andre Johnson being an active part of the organization, I think that matters. The overall assets, I think those matter. So I think DeMeco Ryans, I think there's a chance he's going to be interested. I saw the report from Aaron Wilson that he isn't, and then it was kind of reworded by he's not going to pursue the job for now. Whatever. And a lot of times you got to take some of these reports with a grain of salt because agents are telling guys certain things, and I mean they don't want to say too much. Like DeMeco doesn't want to just come out and leak that he's interested in the Texans job before the Texans even say that they're interested in him. So I don't buy that. And if you go back, I think Aaron said that Gerard Mayo, I saw the report today because I searched it during the show. He said that Gerard Mayo was going to be pursued by the Texans after the playoff game. They never even interviewed him. And that's not to call out Aaron. That's just to say, a lot of times it's a fluid situation. Stuff changes. So I find it hard to believe that DeMeco would not be interested in this gig. Who knows? One thing we do know, the Texans are interested in him, and they've requested to interview a guy from one of the best coaching pipelines, a former Texan, and a guy that I think if you're talking about exciting a fan base, I think DeMeco Ryans would do that at an extreme level. Shane Steichen, offensive coordinator with the Philadelphia Eagles. He's done a hell of a job. Now, they do have talent there. They just traded for Ajayi Brown. They got one of the best offensive lines in the league. They got a hell of a tight end in Goddard. They got Devontae Smith. He's done a good job with Jalen Hurts, though, but there are some beasts in Philadelphia. A lot of people have a lot of good things to say about him. I can't really sell you too much on him. I'll dig more into that. We'll probably get into that tonight, but Shane Steichen on the list as well. Ben Johnson from the Detroit Lions, the offensive coordinator, has done wonders with Jared Goff. If you look at the way the Lions have moved the rock, they were a game away from getting to the playoffs. This seems to be the guy that he seems to be getting as much love as DeMeco Ryans, because I think a lot of people want an offensive guy. And when it comes to offensive guys, there's few with higher stock right now than Ben Johnson. He's young dude. I think he's 36 years old. Again, done wonders with Jared Goff, done a great job in Detroit. Who knows what his coaching staff would look like, but Ben Johnson on the list as well. So you already have the two, at least from who I interact with, and I interact daily with listeners online here. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. It's the only source for daily Texans content, and it's going to be a very fun offseason. But Ben Johnson and DeMeco Ryans, they're two of the most popular names. The betting favorite, and this is a guy who interviewed last year, and if the Texans do hire him, there's some reason for optimism. But there's also, the question of why not last year. Maybe it was as simple as he didn't want to inherit a quarterback with, sexual assault charges that wanted to be out of town and $75 million in dead cap. And that's how you end up with Lovie Smith. Lovie Smith was a beneficiary of the circumstances. Guys who probably were going to have other options down the line, like the Jonathan Gannons, et cetera. You don't want to put yourself in a bad position. Guys like Lovie Smith, who wouldn't have even been in the NFL had it not been for the Texans, you're going to take the opportunity that you can get. But Jonathan Gannon interviewed last year. For whatever reason, things fell apart. He's overseeing one of the best defenses in the league in Philadelphia. Now, people in Philadelphia apparently get frustrated with him. Okay, that's cool. They wanted Andy Reid gone. It felt like a lot of them wanted Doug Peterson gone. And when Nick Sirianni was hired, the internet almost broke in Philadelphia. He's only been one of the best coaches in the league the last year. So that might actually make me want Jonathan Gannon even more if they don't like him in Philadelphia. One of the best sports cities in the country, really one of my favorite cities in the country. I think Philadelphia is badass. But when it comes to rational fans talking about football coaches, not the best track record. Jonathan Gannon would also come with, I think he's 38 years old. He would come with, I think, a very impressive coaching staff. I've heard that maybe Frank Reich would be his offensive coordinator, which would be cool. You'd have kind of a mentor type thing. How ironic would that be if Frank Reich ended up with the Texans? But I think he would be able to put together a staff. I actually think all of these guys would be able to put together pretty impressive staffs, which has been another problem with the Texans. The assistant coaches, they just really haven't had much of a pipeline. Outside of Mike Vrabel, there really hasn't been a coach where you even hear him being mentioned as a potential head coach, unless you're listening to Jim Trotter, who I think a year and a half ago, and he's had a hell of a lot of stuff to say about the Texans. But a year and a half ago, I think he said that Pep Hamilton needed to be considered a coach. Side note, also said Mel Tucker needed to be considered as one with his one good year at Michigan State. So Jonathan Gannon is another one. And then you have Ajayi Evero. Forgive me if I'm pronouncing that wrong, but a very respected defensive coordinator in Denver. Actually, his effort this year on the defensive side and the way that he called that defense, I mean, it was good enough to be really Super Bowl caliber. If the Denver offense had been what many thought they would be when they brought in Russell Wilson, I mean, he would probably still be coaching. Supposedly has a lot of respect in that locker room. He's the oldest guy on this list. I think he's 42 years old. By comparison, I think David Culley was 65 when the Texans gave him the job, if I'm not mistaken, and Lovie Smith was into his 60s as well. So you're getting some younger guys, you're getting some big names, and so far so good. The coaching search is going. If I had to bet right now, I really don't know, because I feel like Cal McNair is going to have more of a hand in this, and I feel like Cal McNair is listening to the people. I don't think this is just going to be a free Nick Caserio type of thing, and I wonder if this is Nick Caserio's initial list. It does seem like, the DeMeco Ryans thing is maybe something that Cal's open to, but Cal McNair himself said those two were going to work together. We'll hear what they got to say at 5:30. I'll be there. I'll be on the scene. We'll have a live stream tonight, and we'll get into it, and we'll keep riding daily when it comes to Texans content. And shout out to all the other people doing their thing, pumping out Texans content. Cap and Trade show on Wednesdays with Troy and Cody Stutes. Cody Stutes is doing a hell of a job. He's coming like a mofo this year. I started my channel last year. Cody Stutes is going to be doing his. So the Texans digital content is increasing the quality of the digital content as the offseason intensifies. And fortunately for the Texans, the process is getting started about as good as you possibly could have hoped, minus, pissing away the number 1 pick because Brandon Cooks wasn't traded. But as far as the way they've handled the coaching situation, Lovie Smith fired Sunday, and now the Texans have requested to interview the hottest, the youngest names on the market, and it's only going to get more and more exciting. And no matter what happens, just remember, we're always in this together. I'll talk to you guys tonight after the Caserio Cal McNair press conference. Subscribe to the channel. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Landry Locker.